Hello world, welcome to the 103rd Climate Change Emergency Broadcast. I'm here in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, out on the battlefield. It is November 27th, 2020. Next week's will be December 4th for the 104th Climate Change Emergency Protest. Presently the CO2 level is 413 parts per million, 0.12. Last year it was 410 and change. So the CO2 level again continues to rise at 2.5 points per million per year above last year's numbers and the year before and the year before. So it's going up at an exponential rate. The equivalency, if you factor in methane, is probably around 600 to 700 parts per million. And the reason behind that, why the number of parts per million, if you're new to listening to these broadcasts, is that humans only have existed in a stable environment that didn't change between 200 and 280 parts per million. Presently, the CO2 is 413 parts per million. And if you throw in the equivalency, you're talking 600 to 700 parts per million. Now, if you factor in methane and nitrous oxide and other fun things like that as greenhouse gases, let alone water vapor, because the heat's increasing, and for every degree increase in temperature, you have a 7% rise in water vapor. So we are on the road to a big problem here, and we're about to hit the brick wall, and people don't even know there is a wall and don't even know they're on the road to problems. Presently, we're on the fastest road to extinction ever in the history of any extinction event. So anyways, the title of this broadcast is called To Find a Fish, Look in a Tree. And that might not make sense to you. It is a Japanese saying, and it is well founded in that the trees provide a forest litter to all of us, and it has algae in it, and molds, and fungi, and bacteria, and all sorts of weird things, and it basically is nutrients for the oceans. This forest flora will eventually end up in the ocean in various forms of nutrients, and along the way it picks up iron through the rocks and through the forest floor itself, and provides nutrients, as I said, to the oceans. So with a dead forest, you end up with a dead ocean around the coastlines. So I don't know if the deeper oceans need us, but everything seems to be interrelated. So without a nutrient system, and if you cut all these trees down, which is what they're doing out here in the battlefield, they did this some 10, 15 years ago. This used to be a forest, and I used to run through it, and now it is a field, and the reasoning behind it supposedly is to restore it back to the Civil War battle time. Well, these type of events that we're doing, and the government is sanctioning, is just destroying everything as far as our ability to survive. And we don't need historical things such as this anymore. And I know it flies in the face of everything because I'm a historian too. But we need to get beyond this idea of putting things back in the past. We need to think about the future. And right now we're destroying it. As you can tell, there's almost no forest out here at all anymore. There is a ring of forest around the edge, which is where Tanya and I do horse trail running. But they've torn down massive amounts of trees, and I don't know what, the end game, and the Department of Interior should know better, is that they want to restore it back to the way it used to look, and it's wrong-headed thinking. And we need to change our thought process, not only here but around the world. You don't see a tree and tear down a tree. You try to build around it, or don't build at all in the forest. Maybe everyone needs to take a walk in the forest and realize how important it is, because the air is much different in a real forest. You can just tell right away. If you go up to Maine or any deep forest in Pennsylvania on the Appalachian Trail, you can just feel the oxygen and feel the energy that's different. And I think a lot of that is that these trees are alive, and they actually talk to each other in various ways, and that they provide nutrients to one another. There are things called mother trees, which are the original tree, and then they spawn off through either seeds or whatever, their babies around them. And when one of them is in trouble, the forest has the root system actually does its best to help out the tree that's disabled or in trouble. So it's a very odd situation that that we're thinking in terms of not environmental ways, and we're thinking still in terms of slaughter and building and putting more houses in. As you can tell, This is a nearby development. So they wanted to restore it back to the way it was in the Civil War, but it's too late for that. This is a whole development in the middle of the battlefield, basically. And yeah, you tear down the trees, and what do you leave left? You have houses now exposed. And people asked when they're touring the battlefield, were the houses here? Well, no, they weren't here. So you can't get it back to the way it was, and that's why we have a brain in our head for imagination, as to how things were. You have plaques around here that explain the battle and why things are the way they are, and you don't need things that have physical presence when obviously your mind can think and go, oh, that's how it was, that's how it was laid out. I see a photograph or I see a map as to how it was, but I totally understand that they need a forest, and we need a forest in order to survive. So we need to change our thought process with the Department of Interior in the United States, and probably, I surmise, around the whole world, such as rebuilding the causing controversy here, rebuilding the Notre Dame Cathedral and using massive amounts of wood. We cannot afford to tear down ancient growth forest and just for a church. Sorry, Jesus did not have a giant church, and I don't think he would approve of doing all that and spending all that money. And yes, it's private money, but spending all that money for a church and not providing for poor people around the world. So back to the forest situation, the desert in Hokkaido, there was an area in Hokkaido, Japan, that back in the early 1900s, they tore down the entire forest for agriculture, as we can see here. And what they did is that they decimated the forest. There were no trees left at all. They created a desert then. The soil blew away. And then what it also did is the fish didn't get nutrients. So the fisheries that were right off the coast ended up dying. So they accomplished nothing, and they destroyed so much back then. They didn't know better then, but we know better now. Right here in this town with this swale here like this, and this is something to think about for your area. If you look at it, there's no trees, and there's a swale here that back in 1994, we got 10 inches of rain in 6 hours, and basically behind my house, the creek came all the way up to my house, which was very scary to see happen, but luckily I got through it all right. But the swale here will eventually fill up with water during a storm. There's no trees to hold back the water, and it will gush into the town of Gettysburg, which is about a half a mile to a mile away from here, downstream. So they're causing a real problem because this drains an entire basin over here. They're causing a future problem, and they don't even know it. And they'll go, oops, sorry, when it happens to someone's house or someone gets hurt or killed or lose their cars or whatever. You got to think ahead of time and assess situations. So I know everyone loves their battlefields and loves their monuments and loves this and loves that, but there's a time to move forward and start looking at your children and your neighbor's children and go, you know what, I love the kids more and I care about our families more, that whether we're going to survive if we continue along this path. So anyways, they created in Hokkaido, as I was saying earlier, that they created a desert, and it destroyed not only the trees and the soil around it, but it also destroyed the fisheries. Forests right now are a carbon sink in that they absorb carbon rather than give it off, and also carbon dioxide. And the oceans do as well, and they turn it into carbonic acid, which is detrimental to the sea life there, but they are saving us. As well as the permafrost is also a carbon sink. So the thing that ends it all is that it is CO2, which creates heat because it's a greenhouse gas, and it leads to more heat, more drought, and more stress on the trees and the environment, such as the oceans and glaciers and permafrost. So instead of being a carbon sink, those things become carbon emitters, which are no longer our friends. And you can't have carbon emitters and survive, because not only our CO2 we're putting up becomes a problem, but also the CO2 of the very things that were protecting us before. So it comes back to bite us. And in some ways, if you look at Mother Earth, she is a living, breathing thing, and she's doing her best to protect herself against someone or something that is trying to hurt the environmental system. And we are the parasite right now. We need to become part of the host, not a parasite on the host. So before the last ice age, there were 130. Before the last ice age, there were redwoods around the whole world. There are redwoods up in north in Canada and far north up in the Arctic. And now we're down to just 133,000 acres in the United States of redwood forests. We've totally destroyed that environment as well. So these ancient trees are also mother trees, and they protect the environment over there. And what's happening right now is that the extinction event that we're heading towards is running so fast that things cannot adapt quick enough. Trees can't adapt quick enough. Plants can't adapt. Animals, they can't move farther enough north or high enough to survive this quickly. We're causing an event, and this might bring it more in perspective. What used to take thousands of years for an extinction event, we're doing this in tens of years, not thousands of years. So it's really bad as to what's happening, and you know, we're hurtling towards extinction, not just slowly strolling towards it. We're hurtling towards it. You know, we're probably now somewhere between what you'd factor in, probably between 20 million years ago or 40 million years ago, and the last extinction event was 50 some million years, or 65 million years ago. So we're sending ourselves right into a brick wall, and we're not even trying to slow up. We're speeding up, in fact, because of our politicians and policies and graft and corruption throughout the whole system. The question comes for the future is that, you know, right now in the United States, and I guess this isn't happening around the world, with coronavirus, people here in the United States are out of jobs. So you got miles and miles of car lines and people waiting for hours just for food. This is the United States. There is no government help right now going on. There is no money coming from the government. There's unemployment going to expire for most people at the end of December. There is no universal health care. The United States does not have any universal health care for people. We do not provide health care for our citizens, which is insanity. A sick society is not a healthy society, obviously. We have no plan to get out of this situation, no plan by the government to end coronavirus other than a vaccine. We're banking everything on a vaccine. You know, there's no mitigation involved. I don't know exactly what that could be, but no one's talking. So the Congress is on vacation right now, and our illustrious president is playing golf every day. So if this seems right to you, then keep on going and watch your friends die and end up in the hospital. And my point is, without any mobilization, anything going on, the government has totally left us behind. What would happen when climate change kicks in full force? Do you think they're going to be there for you? Right now, those people in charge don't give two craps about you. They don't care about what's happening to you. They don't care about what's happening to your family. If they did, they would be out on this, you know, making speeches and getting things done as far as passing laws and really kicking it in and getting the military involved. We spend more money for our military than 10 other countries combined, and we can't even get any help for our countrymen. There's no mobilization going on. There's no food distribution. There's no housing being set up. People are being evicted from their houses all over the place, owners and also renters. So this is a horrible situation developing, and after December, when the unemployment runs out, you're going to have millions upon millions of people out on the streets. And you think this is going to go well? Well, think again, because people are not going to be happy watching their kids and families suffer. So the question is, you're betting your life on your leaders, you know, whether you believe these people will lead you over a cliff or lead you into some sort of utopia. And I'm betting for the cliff right now, the way we're headed. Governments have no clear policy as to what's happening with climate change. Obviously, you know, what's happened here about tearing down all the trees is an example of that. They can't think ahead. They're just yes men and yes women that just go along with the system and play the game. And it is a game to them, but it's survival for us. This is the biggest event in human history, what's coming up, this extinction event. And never before have humans experienced this. This is it. This is bell time. This is 15th round, and we're on the ropes, and we have 1 minute left in the fight, and we're teetering and about to drop over and be knocked out. But we keep doing detrimental things like tearing down forests and not thinking ahead, and drilling and fracking. You know, our illustrious person who got elected as president said repeatedly during the election, whether it's an election talking point or not, that he's not stopping fracking. What an asinine point of view, and it's totally wrong-headed. He appointed John Kerry, who was, I think, Secretary of State under Obama, and then briefly, and then also was a senator from Massachusetts. You know, great politician, but that's just it. They're politicians. His whole thing is to get us back in the Paris Agreement, and the Paris Agreement is a death sentence so far. It doesn't have any teeth, and right now, if the models are correct, we're going to at least go to 3.5 degrees Celsius above the past 1880 baseline. So right now, what we're experiencing, such as today, where it's 65 degrees again today, or 62 or whatever, we're experiencing these wild weather fluctuations, and things are out of control. And there's no attempt to think ahead and go, you know what, the system's messed up and we need to do something more than what we're doing, which is absolutely nothing as far as the world goes. So the politicians are in charge of our end, and you're letting it, you know, basically if you're in a car, you're sitting in the back seat and saying, go ahead, just drive us to wherever you want. And it's headed towards a brick wall, and you're still sitting there and no one's doing anything. But it's okay. We're driving into a brick wall. I'm sure things will be okay. We're going to slow up. Yeah, they're hurtling towards this brick wall 100 miles. Oh, we're 40 feet away from the brick. Oh, we're 30 feet away. I wonder when we're going to change. Maybe we ought to think about it. And, you know, 5 feet away from the brick wall is not the time to change your course or put on the brakes. So no one's consulting with scientists as far as what we need to have done. And I mean real scientists, not these ivory tower guys that think everything is just one little tiny system. This is all related. You know, there's no scientists brought on the media when climate change is happening, climate change events such as fires, droughts, deluges, anything like that. They don't explain what's happening to the average person. You can't expect them to understand what's happening if no one explains it to them. People in the United States don't have time to do research. Like, I'm retired, so I have time to look into things and check things out. But most people don't have time for this and to do the research. So they need people to be able to explain what's happening. So, you know, the question is, are you willing to sit back? I suggest you get involved. You do either protest, speaking on media, talk to your friends, try to get mobilized. I know it's hard for a lot of people to talk. Believe it or not, I was scared to do these things for many of these things. Now, you know, the anger part has taken over and the frustration with everything. So that kind of counteracts any type of fear or nervousness about that. I suggest you also dig up your yard, quit mowing the grass. That's an Olympic event around here in Gettysburg. You know, plant trees, no more mowing at all, as I said. Hang wash. When you do a load of laundry, how about hang it outside? Some days it actually dries quicker than the dryer, which is surprising, and it's also healthier for you because you get the sun's rays on it and ultraviolet light. So there are a lot of things. Shorter showers. You know, your water heater requires you to heat up the water. Take shorter showers. Try to time yourself. See if you can do a shower in 4 minutes or less, something like that. Americans love to take their 20-minute showers, which dumps gallons and gallons of water. Sorry, people of Africa and Asia, that's what we do here, and we're disgusting that way. I know, I realize some of you have to walk 5 miles or 10 miles to get water. Now, water is a rare commodity, but in the United States, here in the East Coast at least, we don't care about that, and we just dump water endlessly down the drain, and it goes right back in the ocean rather than reuse it or have a gray water situation like a bucket when you're washing your hands or just rinsing off your dishes that you can dump outside for the trees and the plants. So, as I said, next week is the December 4th, I'm sorry, it'll be the 104th climate change protest, and I suggest if you want to learn about things concerning climate change, you go down my and Tanya's webpage here at Jim McHenry, and also Environmental Coffee House. They're on YouTube, a lot of it, and also on Facebook. Extinction Rebellion, any of their events are awesome. They're on YouTube. Roger Hallam, excellent speaker, excellent professor. Same with Paul Beckwith. Peter Wadhams, who's an expert in the Arctic, and as well as Peter Carter, who has a total grasp on the whole system. So I'll catch you next week, and that'll be number 104.